Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a good day, and above all else, that you are looking after yourselves and one another. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the topic of another fantastic episode on the Music Den, I want to welcome back to the channel Mr. Ken Cheshire. How's it going, Ken?
Going well. Glad to be back.
Glad you're back. And the man of the hour, Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it
Howdy, everyone.
going? Jim's in a good mood this morning, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with album anniversaries for the month of March. Today, we are looking at albums that are celebrating their 60th and 40th anniversaries. We've got three albums to talk about, uh, three interesting albums to talk about. We're going to be looking at the first album that we're talking about today is from the Beach Boys. And the album is called The Beach Boys Today, released March 8th, 1965. It is the band's eighth release. It was recorded from June 22nd, 1964 to January 15th, 1965, and has a classification of chamber, excuse me, chamber pop and orchestral rock. Has a playing time of, get this, ladies and gentlemen, 28 minutes and 54 seconds. So under 29 minutes,
Sweet.
okay, released through Capitol Records, okay. So after all that introduction, I will pass the virtual mic over to Mr. Ken Cheshire, and he will give us his impression on this album, followed by Jim. And again, because I was brought up right by my mama, I'm going to go last. So, Ken,
Thank
your
you.
thoughts
Thank you.
on this
Thank you. Thank
album?
you. The good news about this album, it's only 28 minutes long. Um,
Wow. You're
yeah, I
starting
know.
there?
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, the Beach Boys have released what, 3,000 albums over the years. This is number eight, produced by Brian Wilson. Most of the songs are written by Brian and Mike Love. This is still, I mean, considering it's album number eight, it's still early Beach Boys. It's got all of the early Beach Boys stuff. It's very traditional, typical Beach Boys with the close harmonies, which are very nice. All the songs are basically either adolescent love songs or party songs. Um, it's definitely of its time. It reeks of 1965. It's a wonderful album if you love that era of Beach Boys. I do love me some Beach Boys, but I prefer my time, um, a bit later on. Of course, um, for me, the standout song in this album is "Help Me, Rhonda." Um, I didn't look to see if any of the other songs off this album had any got any mileage on the charts or anything. Um, and one of the reasons "Help Me, Rhonda" is so popular is because it's been covered so many times since, and often covered very, very well. Um, like I said, I like Beach Boys, but I prefer the later period. But if you like the early period, this is probably right down your um, wheelhouse. But for me, I would only, you know, hunt and peck various songs from it. But generally, I probably wouldn't pick it at all. Just my
So
take.
what's your preferred Beach Boys era? Are we talking like Pet Sounds, Surfs Up?
Pet Sounds and Surfs Up are probably my two favorite. I like Surfs Up especially because it's just not all the dee 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 dee, the upbeat, happy stuff, which is good. But especially the song Surfs Up. The first time I heard that, I'm like, wait, this is the Beach Boys? And then listened to it closely, and I heard all of those wonderful harmonies and vocals, but it wasn't walking on sunshine. And I really appreciated that difference in what they were doing, around Pet Sounds, Surfs Up, Smile, that stuff. When I felt that Brian was getting a little bit more creative and thinking outside of his sandbox.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Okay. Jim,
I have a question for you, Mr. Venditti. Can you um, say again what the classification of this album is?
the classification for this album is chamber pop and orchestral rock.
Okay, so Mr. Cheshire, I would say that maybe you might not have listened closely enough to this album,
Oh
my dear
dear.
man,
That's a challenge. Go on.
Because
because side two, except for the Bull Session track, is the way forward into Pet Sounds, Surfs Up, all the Wrecking Crew, all the inventive Brian arrangements. I mean, this is the album that really sort of marks the turning point. Maybe it's beginning to make a wide turn, but side one, I would say definitely, side one is chock full of the hits. Do You Want to Dance? When I Grow Up to Be a Man, Help Me Rhonda, which is, a 10 out of 10. Dance, Dance, Dance. I mean, they're your basic Beach Boys songs, with a little bit of, you know, I'll say this Wrecking Crew flavor built into it. But side two, which has zero hits on it, this is the way forward, babies. I mean, it's the more orchestral sound is coming up. You've got your timpani, harpsichord, vibraphone, French horn. This stuff is starting to come to the fore in these tracks on side two. And as has been talked about on the interwebs, this is the album where they start to kind of leave a lot of the car and surf songs behind, and they start to get a little more introspective. Brian starts to get, putting his neuroses a little more to the front in terms of the lyrics. And the side two to me is kind of the revelation about that. In fact, as I was listening to it, I got through the first six songs, which comprise side one, tight 14, 15 minutes. And then I was thinking, oh man, good thing this is a short album because it's side two, and I don't know if I can make it through. But it does a fantastic job again of sort of you see that DNA in all those songs. Please Let Me Wonder, I'm So Young, Kiss Me Baby, She Knows Me Too Well, in the back of my mind. Again, none of these were hits, but if you're a Pet Sounds fan, this is where that stuff begins to blossom. Like I said, it's turning a corner. It might be a very wide corner, like trying to turn an aircraft carrier, but that's where the interest in this album lays for me is that backside of the record. Bull Session with Big Daddy is just, it's a throwaway knockoff. It's a joke, really. But yeah, you got your absolute bangers on side one, which are fine as far as the Beach Boys go. But again, side two, for the discerning listener, I would say that's where the treasure is in this record. As I put my needles into my good friend Mr. Cheshire.
especially you lean into the camera when you say discerning. Yeah.
That's because it's for emphasis.
Yes.
That's why it's there.
Yes, and you put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Yet
Did
again.
I now?
Yes, you
Thank
did.
you.
Okay.
Thank you for playing along.
There you go. There you go. Um, all right. All right. Valid points. Well, both have valid points. What to say about this album? It's 28 minutes and 54 seconds. I'll never get back in my life. Thank you very much. Um,
Now,
it's true. There's no doubt that the tight harmonies that they created amongst them are recognizable. They're classic. For me, it's too much of the same. For like it just After a while, it gets annoying on the on my ears to hear the harmony like come through like that. I'm not saying that they're not the songs are not good, they're not well structured, but it's all also in terms of the subject matter on side one is one note. Like, I want to go surfing. I've got a girlfriend. We want to, we're going to get married at some point. Da, da, da. It's one note. I mean, Do You Want to Dance? Bette Midler did a version of this on her debut album, The Divine Miss M. It's a slowed down version. And when she's talking about do you want to dance, she's talking about anything but dancing, if you know what I mean. She does not want to
Nudge,
dance.
nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And she means it. Ladies and gentlemen, I prefer that sort of seductive, slow version to the original. Um, Help Me Rhonda, classic. It's great. Maybe I need to go back and listen to side two over again because I wasn't really picking up um, the nuances that Jim was talking about. But as far as them, moving away from the boy meets girl, let's go surfing kind of a situation. But it is what it is. Again, Homie Rhonda is a classic. Do You Want to Dance is a classic in its own right, but it's not an album I go back to overall. Maybe I need to give it another listen, but
I
yeah.
think I think I agree with you, Armando. I mean, it's a musically academic exercise, for me, to kind of go in and kind of see where the turn starts to happen, and
Yeah.
the songs, like Help Me Rhonda and When I Grew Up to Be a Man and all that. Do You Want to Dance? I mean, those are all like in my DNA anyway, because I grew up with those songs on AM radio and hearing it from people having the Endless Summer compilation and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, no,
but yeah,
and I should say too, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to mention this. There is a wonderful documentary on the Beach Boys on Disney Plus. Okay. If you have it and you're able to access it, if it's still on the service, please check it out. It is a detailed uh, telling of their story, um, and it's fantastically laid out down to the most minute details. Um, but in terms of the of this album, I can honestly see how can I put this? I can honestly see where like how Brian Wilson probably at this point is getting frustrated musically. Like he wants to start going inward and uh, conveying what he's going through internally, musically, and the domination of his father over the band is absolute at this point, and they're all trying to break away from him. And let's be honest, he ruled with an iron fist. Okay,
yes, he did.
and he was very dominating, and it was very difficult for the rest of them to break away. They did eventually, but it was difficult. There were casualties involved on an emotional, psychological level for doing that. I just let's just put it this way. There's a dramatic difference between this album from the Beach Boys and the next one that we're about to discuss. Thematically,
Yes.
musically, overall, just as night as today, you know.
Before we leave the Beach Boys altogether, though, since you
Yes.
mentioned that Disney Plus documentary, if folks out there have not seen Love and Mercy, which is the Brian Wilson biopic, um, it's really, really well done. Highly, highly recommended.
Okay, good to know.
Agreed.
See, I didn't even know that that was out
Yeah.
there. Okay, good to know. Good to know.
It's fantastic. It's Ken, help me here. It's Paul Dano and John Cusack playing Brian Wilson at different ages, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, now that you mentioned John Cusack, okay, now I'm remembering something of it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
good. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we must carry on. Moving on to our next release, released March 22nd, 1965. Bob Dylan, Bringing it all back home. Mr. Dylan's fifth release for Columbia, recorded uh, between January and February of 1965, has a playing time of 47 minutes and 21 seconds. Now, like I said, we're gonna carry on past the virtual mic. Let's mix this up a little bit. Let's screw this up a little bit. Jim, what are your views on this album?
Um, it's it's really, really good. Um, you know,
Okay, good
bringing
night,
it all
folks.
back home. Bringing it all back home is the first album where Dylan plugs in, and so side one is him backed with the electric band, and side two is the more acoustic stuff. But for the totality of the album, the folksy, you know social justice warrior kind of side of Bob is put to the side, and he's beginning to sort of get more, he's dealing with other subjects. He's still being poetic, but things are becoming more surreal, more complex, more uh allegorical perhaps. um and it's an album that's got, to me, four standout classics to it. Now, Subterranean Homesick Blues, which everyone knows from the cards. um Gates of Eden, It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. And a lot of that is all, that's the back end of the album. So, for me, side two is where the action is on this record. It's also got Mr. Tambourine Man, which, it's great, but it's like, okay, I've heard that a bajillion times from the Byrds. Interesting to kind of hear Bob's version of it, but it doesn't really do anything for me. Maggie's Farm is good. And I love that it's been covered a gajillion times. I've seen YouTube cover that once, maybe twice. I don't recall exactly. And boy, when they do Maggie's Farm, it's a powerhouse. So to me, that's kind of like the definitive version of Maggie's Farm sticking in my mind. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is, we talked earlier about Beach Boys Today being a turn of the corner. This is another turn of the corner album, but because of just how idiosyncratic Bob is and what an individualist he is, it's a lot more palatable. I mean, you're right, Armando, where Beach Boys Today is kind of stuck in some ways within its framework of the harmonies, and everything is sort of built around that. It does get it does get old, at times. It's like, okay, great, another song with lush harmonies. Oh boy. And there's sometimes here on Bring It All Back Home where it's like, okay, there's more Bob, whining, singing. It's like, okay, that's, let's try to move on from that. But again, with those four classics on it, and again, the backside of this album to me with the Eden, I'm Only Bleeding, and All Over Now, Baby Blue, it's just those three songs are just 10 out of 10. I, I I haven't listened to this album enough. Need to give it some more time. It's just so well done. Highly recommended. And again, trying to be in the moment for folks that haven't seen A Complete Unknown, which is the Timothy Chalamet movie, Bob Dylan. This period is of a part of that story that's being told in that movie, and
Mhm.
seeing that movie helped me appreciate just Dylan's genius and approach that much more. So yeah, bringing it all back home. Do yourself a favor. If you feel robbed having spent 28 minutes listening to Beach Boys Today, you will have some sense of, cosmic justice by investing 47 minutes and change in this baby.
Okay. All right. Ken, your view?
I agree. I guess I hold Tambourine Man and It's All Over Now probably a little bit in higher esteem because I've always listened more to Bob's version than the Byrds. Um,
Okay.
but this album is special if only for it introduced me to rap. And it's still one of my favorite videos. It's been the videos for Subterranean Homesick Blues has been mimicked by other artists in videos many
Access and
times
yeah.
because it's iconic. Um, I love Maggie's Farm. Uh, and you're right, this is where he started getting more electric, yet there's still plenty of his acoustic guitar. It doesn't go off the deep end as far as going to electric. It's a medium, um, a progress. Like you said, this is a corner turn. Um, so yeah, this is definitely in my top five, maybe top three of Dylan albums.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, for me, Subterranean, Maggie's Farm, Tambourine, It's All Right, Ma, and It's All Over Now. You know, if they weren't already on a greatest hits album, I would make a greatest hits playlist and they would be on it. So yeah, bringing it all back home is a winner for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how can I? This to me was a step up from the Beach Boys today. Again, Dylan has that, whiny voice that, that Joni Mitchell has said he invented himself to present to people in terms of his singing style. Um, there's no love lost between the two of them. Okay. Um, this is a good album. I mean, Subterranean Homesick Blues, the video is iconic. And I should mention this that that was considered to be the first video shot on film, whereas Bohemian Rhapsody was the first video to be shot on video. So we have to differentiate between the two of them because these videos are 10 years apart. Um, this album also features John Sebastian of the 11 Spoonful on bass. We should mention that as well. I think that this album is fantastic. I do notice how they grouped all the shorter songs on side one and the lengthier tracks on side two. Whether they did that on purpose, you've got 7 songs on side one, four on side two. Starts off with Subterranean Homesick Blues. Good start right out the gate. Just it grabs you right then and there. She Belongs to Me is a fantastic track. Maggie's Farm to me is a new classic because I didn't realize how much I was gonna like this album. I really didn't realize how much I was gonna like this album. Um, Outlaw Blues, another good track. You as I go down my notes here, as I scroll down, you go down to side two, Bob Dylan's 115th Dream. The fact that there's a false start on the intro and he bursts out laughing, like you can't make shit like this up. And this is like classic stuff, right? It's just the way they do it. Sorry, that's the end of side one, track seven, and then side two starts off, with Mr. Tambourine Man. Um, I'm think I prefer his version, the original, to the Birds version. I mean, the Birds version everyone knows it's a classic, but I think that his version has its own uniqueness and its own validity in the way he does it.
Oh, sure.
You know, um, it's all right, Mama Molly Bleeding. It's great. I mean, how can I put this? There's a validity in this album that wasn't there in the Beach Boys album for some reason. It's like these albums came out in the same time, the same month, and they're worlds apart.
Yeah.
They're worlds apart.
They're certainly
Stylistically,
coasts, their entire coasts apart too.
exactly. Stylistically, just oh, oh my God. It's like, okay, this album comes out, okay, the big boys have come to play. All right, make room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This to me, this blows the Beach Boys today off the stage in terms of its musicality, in terms of its thematic ideas and its execution and its production. I'm getting used to the whiny voice. I really and truly am. And and I mean that with all due respect. Okay, I really do. I do like the sound.
I think it's a mark of adulthood of where you can sort of appreciate Dylan for
Yeah, yeah,
and take the voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And if you can get past the whininess of his voice and appreciate what is going on here musically. I mean, it's no wonder that when he met, there's the infamous story of when John Lennon, or when the Beatles met Dylan, John Lennon was a big fan, and Dylan turns around and says, "What you're doing is shit. Like, wake up,
Sounds like Bob being
wake up."
provocative.
You know, I can see Revolver being influenced by this album coming out a year later in '66. I can see it being influenced by this album. You know,
Yeah,
um,
Rubber Soul too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rubber Soul as well. So, uh, this album to a lot of people, a lot of musicians, was a game changer. And I can see why. I can see why. And I want to investigate some more personally. But
Well, this is a good period of Dylan to investigate.
Yeah.
big surprise, me wanting to jump in and buy some more CDs at some point in time,
I'm
right?
not telling you to go
I'm
take out a second mortgage and you
I'm
know.
not doing that. I'm just saying.
Just just get Biograph, you know.
Yeah,
You know,
but
yeah.
no, no, no. But just like Blood on the Tracks, um, made me want to eventually buy the set
I
of
understand.
Blood on the Tracks. This album makes me want to investigate some more as to his musicality and his depth as a lyricist and as a musician.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, we must carry on, ladies and gentlemen. Our third and final album for this episode of Album Anniversaries. We are looking at Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Southern Accent, released March 26, 1985. Uh, their sixth release, released through MCA Records, has a playing time of 39 minutes and 54 seconds, so just shy of 40 minutes. Recorded between 1983 and 1985. Produced by Jimmy Iovine, Mike Campbell, Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics, Robbie Robertson of the band, and Tom Petty. So who shall I pick on first? Ken?
I have boiled down to my feelings about this album in one word. That word is meh. Um, I don't see that Dave Stewart, particularly, at least for me, contributed anything, mind blowing on this. Um, it's it for me. This album is Tom Petty um, on decaf coffee. I don't find the songs particularly standing out. One of my favorite Petty albums is Damn the Torpedoes, and which, man, the energy on that album is just unbelievable. And that's one thing that I love about it. The first three albums are still my favorite, but this one is just that mid 80s. I don't know.
Oh,
And
you just
and the thing about it is for all the people that uh, hate Bob Dylan singing, Petty's is not that much better. Um, it's many times it's pitchless. And but he sings to his strengths. He writes the songs to his vocal strengths and whatever. But there has just I haven't visited this album in a long time,
Yeah.
so visiting it again didn't change my mind on it. It just it it's underwhelming to me. But like I said, I prefer his first three albums most. Fourth album a lot too, but this one just I don't know. It doesn't have the kick. It doesn't have the sizzle that I'm always looking for. So meh, meh.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Jim.
Um, I have also distilled my feelings about this album down to one word, and that word is "eh." Um,
Good night,
That's
ladies and gentlemen.
first
Oh,
cousin to meh. Yeah,
it is the first
the
cousin.
first
It's not
cousin.
very far removed.
yes.
Here are the things I hold against this album. Um,
Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. All right.
Now we're getting into me, and I'll tell you what. So to me, there's
I'll tell
three
you what.
songs.
Okay, go on.
That's right.
Go on.
There's three songs on this album to me that are it's kind of worth their salt, and only one of them really belongs. Well, one and two belong on here. Don't Come Around Here No More should have just been a standalone single. We talked in a previous episode how in the UK they would do singles that were totally separate of albums. You know, Don't Come Around Here No More is a great song, but it's got a character and a timbre and a quality that doesn't belong with anything else on this album. It certainly doesn't belong on the cover or matched with the cover. The cover gives you a feeling of
Americana.
southern accents basically, and this
Americana.
song
Yeah.
is the it's the farthest from it as can possibly be. And so I don't know if it's someone in marketing to blame. Ultimately, I would poke my finger in Tom Petty's chest about this, but sadly the gentleman is no longer with us. um
Hmm.
I the back half of this album to me sounds like what the cover depicts. But all of these songs on the back half of the album just stink. There's nothing memorable about any of them to me. Um, Rebels, kind of working backwards from side one, Southern Accents certainly sounds like the cover. And if there's anything that sort of epitomizes the promise of what the cover seeks to deliver, you know, the title track really does that. Rebels has, a lyrical quality to it that would match with the cover image and the ambiance.
Yeah.
But again, from a production standpoint, it totally misses the mark. Rebels and Don't Come Around Here No More and It Ain't Nothing to Me should have been like a three-sided single if you could possibly do that.
You
They're
could.
so far afield from what is happening in the field of the cover. See what I did there? um it
I
just
got it.
it just ruins the whole schmear to me.
Okay.
There are very few Tom Petty albums to me that work. Damn the Torpedoes is, you know, up there. Full Moon Fever is up there, but a lot of his albums to me are like this. It's hit and miss, and this album to me suffers way more misses than hits. It's it has those 80s production tropes, and again with something like Don't Come Around Here No More, it's so over the top that it works. It still is a delightful listen today, but it doesn't fit with the context of the frickin' record.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mic
this
drop.
is one of many albums in the particularly the mid 80s that were sold really, really well and were very, very popular, and I just never got it. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe it's the people younger than me that for some reason gravitated towards these. I'm not sure. that and hardcover Petty fans that like everything he did. But yeah,
Okay.
Armando.
Well,
Your one word review. Distill it down into one word, Armando. Do it. You can do
meh.
it. No.
In that, don't get me wrong. I mean, I have all the Tom Petty albums. I have all 16 albums. And I will eventually be doing an album ranking. I'm just
Ooh,
yes, of Tom Petty and the
shots
Heartbreakers.
fired.
Yeah, shots fired. I'm just trying. It's a daunting task to tackle all 16 albums, and I will be doing that eventually, ladies and gentlemen. It's been on the back burner for months, but I'm going to be doing it definitely. Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, I do think that this album has a very 80s, quote unquote, viewpoint. From a production standpoint, I do believe it's very possible that, I mean, from what I'm looking at here, Dave Stewart, don't get me wrong, fantastic musician, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, crafted some ass-shaking pop and dance tracks for the Eurythmics. Uh, has worked with Dylan, has worked with others as well. I do get the sense from this album that, Tom Petty's like, look, I'm working with Dave Stewart. He's got 3 songs on the album, like, look what we can do together, kind of thing. I do get that kind of feeling. Um, don't come around here no more. Classic with the, Alice in Wonderland motif in terms of the video. Um, mm, God. Um, you know, the, the album cover to me screams Americana.
Oh, yeah.
It screams Americana. The only track on this album that really could say that has the Americana feel, the Americana vibe would be The Best of Everything, the last track on the album. Um, the rest of the songs, I mean, Rebels is okay. It ain't nothing to me. The first track written by Dave Stewart um, is all right, because but it's got that programmed, like early programmed drum track. I mean, yes, it probably still could have been recreated live on stage, but okay, don't come around here no more. Let's forget about that for a second here. Um, what else? Ha ha ha! Make it better, forget about me. Okay, another Dave Stewart track. It's all right. Spike, forget that. I couldn't. Oh, I got like 40 seconds into it. Skip, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Um, Mary's New Car, I do like. I mean, yes, it's got the programmed drumming on it, but it's got the minimal vocals on it, but it's got that feel of, for me anyway, being a teenager, going into my late teens, mid-teens, late teens, and just having the feeling of wanting to escape, getting in a car and just going somewhere. It's the 1985 version of Fast Car. Do you know what I mean? For me anyway. Um, but does it save the album? No. It doesn't. It doesn't. It just this album to me, with the exception of the one song, The Best of Everything, is saturated in 80s production. And
Hmm.
it's pretty much, I love Tom Petty. Do not get me wrong. And I'm gonna take a second here, guys. I have gained a new appreciation for Tom Petty as a singer-songwriter, as someone who, after watching the Peter Bogdanovich film, uh, Running Down a Dream, please check that out. I have gained a
Yep.
whole new respect for Tom Petty as a singer-songwriter and everything he went through. I just think with this album, he took a left turn and didn't know how to get back on the road in terms of the proper highway to get back home
Mhm.
again. It just doesn't do anything for me. Um, you know,
The one saving grace that I will attribute to this album was that it began Petty's association, professional association with Dave Stewart,
yeah,
which eventually led to a bunch of guys hanging out and recording an album in Dave Stewart's house that ended up being titled Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. So I will hold, I will give that little bit of credit to this album.
that's right. That's right. But in terms of an album, I mean, how can I put this? Okay, the big single, Don't Come Around Here No More. All right, that's track three on the album. Okay, what else on this album anchors it? What else on this album? What other song on this album has enough musical depth and, and structure to rank this album as a mid 80s classic? There's nothing here. I'm sorry. I am sorry. Now I know where this is going to be on the ranking, but it just it doesn't hold for me overall. Yes, I love a good ass shaking tune. I had to say that. Jim would be disappointed if I didn't use the term ass shaking at some point during this video. His faith is restored now that I've said ass shaking. But there's nothing here of substance that I can say makes this a classic album to go back to. I'm sorry. It's
I think we have a consensus, gentlemen. We're all in
yeah,
the meh category. So
yeah, yeah. Pretty much, pretty much. Any other comments or viewpoints or any of the albums we talked about?
Yeah, I had my say.
I
All
think we
right.
covered it.
Yeah.
All right. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Album anniversaries. Three albums celebrating their 60th and 40th anniversaries, respectively. Please put down the comments, your views on these albums. Of course, again, these are just our views. And if you hear Bob snoring in the background, please forgive me. Um, it is what it is.
Bob's opinion on the record has now been,
Yes, yeah. He fell asleep to it.
That's right.
He actually did fall asleep when I was listening to it last night. But again, these are just our opinions. Please put down again in the comments below your views on these albums. Maybe we missed something with these albums, right? Maybe we missed something musically
could be.
that, or a nuance, or just a little nugget of
Mhm.
information that maybe we missed that if you can pass along to us that would possibly make us look at these albums in a different light. Okay. Um, but there you go. So I want to thank Mr. Oh, yes,
I have something that I wish to promote.
please do.
After this episode, we're going to tackle 50th anniversary
I was
albums
gonna, yeah, I was gonna
from
mention that.
1975, and it's
Yes.
wow. There's like 10 or 11 records in here, and boy, does it run the gamut.
Yes,
This is going to be fun to talk about these.
ladies and gentlemen, uh, as Jim just mentioned, I was going to mention this. Next up on album anniversaries, we are tackling the year 1975, March of 1975. 1975 was a productive year in terms of album releases. So we are separating this into part one and part two of album anniversaries, 50th anniversary edition of um, 5 albums per episode. So please stay tuned for that. But again, getting back to these three. Again, if there's anything that we've missed, please let us know. Again, we are not experts. We are just giving you our opinion of what we heard. And yeah, maybe there is something that we should reconsider. So again, for Mr. Ken Cheshire and the one and only man of the hour, Mr. Jim Bricker. I'm Armando Venditti signing off. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that we've got coming up. As Jim mentioned, we've got the 50th anniversary episodes coming up for 1975, parts one and two. Those are going to be barn burners, I'm telling you right now. And I'm going to be focusing on those today, actually. Anyways, please stay tuned for those. We got more ideas cooking up. And yeah, we're you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we have fun doing these episodes. I hope that comes across on video. We have fun together, the three of us. And when Bill was able to join in, it's a pretty much a free for all, in terms of what we talk about. So please stay tuned for more videos coming up. Look after yourselves and one another, and we'll see you soon with more videos. Bye for now.